cut this off. What's up, everybody? All right, we are here. Sorry for the late start here. Was we eating good tonight, or was it some take it back to the chef? How are we feeling, y'all? You know, we did the watch party, which we do every Sunday. Which, by the way, for everyone that join me every week, every Sunday for our watch party, I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all the real heroes. Y'all the real kings and queens out there. I appreciate the support, man. I had so much fun these last 8 weeks watching these episodes, which we'll talk about the finale, obviously. But I just want to start off top with some appreciation and feeling thankful for you all. So I appreciate y'all first and foremost. Tonight's finale, y'all. We are here. We have been waiting 8 weeks for this. And this is going to be obviously a scene by scene breakdown. Well, honestly, not scene by scene because there wasn't a lot to talk about, but we'll get into that here in a second. But we'll talk about the season as a whole, and kind of hopes and what I hope to see for next season. But I'll be honest with you all, I'm more than disappointed in tonight's. As I said in the watch party, the teaser trailer for season 3. That's what tonight's episode was. Just a big setup for another season in 2 years or more. Who knows? Who the hell knows? But listen, thank y'all for joining me on this after show. I appreciate y'all. Hit the thumbs up, share, leave your thoughts in the comments. We will talk about it. Tonight is tonight's therapy episode of talking about, again, this season and this finale and everything in between. So, y'all ready? Before we get into it, man, let me see who we got in the chat, man. Let me get that. Who we got? Let me scroll all the way. I got some comments going already. I appreciate y'all. They needed 10 episodes. We'll talk about that. I'll make sure to put that on the agenda tonight. Oops, hold on. Episode playing in the background. There we go. I'm just getting the screenshots prepared for this episode so we can kind of go scene by scene. So hold on one second. Let me get this set up here and I'll read you guys' comments. All right. What the hell? Not a damn battle. Major death at the end. Come on. Yeah. We'll get to that. Was fairly boring. Is there anyone that liked the episode? And if you did, there's no shame, no hate. I just want to sift through and see if there's anyone that's a fan of it. I would love to get your thoughts on the episode. But I'm just reading through some of the comments now, and it seems like a lot of people are kind of where I'm at. Which, like I said, I feel like it was just not even a full trailer, but a teaser trailer for what's to come next season. Yeah, Meg, I had to I had to cool off too. I had to take the dog on a little walk. That's why I was a little bit behind. Star Wars is always typos. All right, I think we got everyone ready. Again, obviously we'll give scores at the end of this breakdown, but one word. Put one word in the chat about how you felt about this finale. One single word, not a whole paragraph or whatnot, but I want one single word about how you felt about tonight's finale. Just one. One word, and we'll pull them up here about how you felt about the finale. Yeah, I get this set up here. And as I do every week, I'm going to cut this into an edited version for those that missed the live version of this. So we're going to get it set up. With that being said, welcome everyone to tonight's discussion and after show for the season 2 finale of House of the Dragon, an episode that left a lot to be desired, as we'll talk about in the discussion. So for my live watchers, I asked them a question. I'm going to pose the same for those watching the replay and watching this edited version. Put one word in the comment section now how you felt about the finale. Obviously, we'll get to just final thoughts at the end of this breakdown, scores, all that stuff. But just put one word in the chat, one word in the comment section how you felt after the episode got done playing. And I'll read those once we get there. But This is my initial impressions. My one word that I'll give to you all now is I don't even- disappointed, underwhelmed. I mean, this is more than one word. Upset, frustrated. Um, just just not a feeling that you want to have after watching a finale of a show that I've thoroughly enjoyed. If you all have been watching these breakdowns every week, again, I appreciate y'all. But I don't want to say I've been defending the show. I think the show speaks for itself. But I know that there has been conversations about the pacing, nothing really happening, a ton of setup, and there's something to be said about that. But I was mostly enjoying what we got for this season. But I'm one of those people where I can be maybe disappointed or underwhelmed by how things start, but if you can end on a high note, a lot could be forgiven. But tonight's episode was not that. How things wrapped up was pretty disappointing. But we'll break it down. With that being said, let's get into this first scene here and find the highs and lows of this episode. First off, we open with this meeting here. Obviously, we know that this is we're preparing for war. Everyone's doing, getting out and getting their alliances going. We have the deal being cut here with Thailand, who's trying to talk to essentially these pirates that have what they need. They're trying to get the blockade, unblocked and trying to get alliances going. And he's making deals with these pirates, to give them stepstones and this, that, and the third. And he agrees to it, even though he knows that Damon and Aegon probably wouldn't be proud of it. But hey, they need soldiers. But in this opening sequence here, we meet a character who I wasn't familiar with. As we did with the watch party, some people let me know that this character that we meet in this scene is someone that we should be excited for moving forward. And let me find the picture of the character here. Yeah, there she is. Let me pull her up here. This character here. Who, I mean, we could just kind of talk about them now and Thailand and Lahair, I think is her name, Lohair. A character that brought some levity in tonight's episode, which I didn't think was needed. But according to the comment section, who was joining me in the watch party, they said that she's a badass. She's someone that should be excited to see moving forward. Sure. So just jumping ahead when we see them in the pit and they're wrestling in the mud, and Thailand kind of impresses her and she agrees to help, and she wants to test him, and she feels as though he's someone that can warrant her attention and warrant her army and her men, and it earns her respect, and even so much so that he is now someone that she wants to give birth to the kids of her wives. So yeah, there's a, like I said, a sense of levity, a sense of fun, excitement with this new character. But as we'll talk about in this breakdown, this was one of those scenes and just collective scenes that I just felt was unnecessary, if I'm being honest. Like, to introduce a new character is fine, and then a character that I'm excited to get more from in this relationship and see where this goes. But this is a season finale, and you're introducing characters that offer levity. Again, I'm excited to see what she brings next season in 2-3 years. But for tonight, she didn't really bring much to me, and didn't really bring much to this episode besides obviously getting what Tyler was there for. But let me know how y'all felt about that scene, about the new character, and if you got anything from it besides, again, the moments of levity, the wives joke, the playing in the mud, gaining the respect. Didn't really do much for me. But like I said, fingers crossed that this is a payoff for next season. But let me see how y'all felt in the comments for my live chat about this introduction, and also let me scroll up and see the one words you guys left about the finale. All right, I think this is where it began. I enjoyed it. Great acting. It's always great acting. It's never been an issue. Just the pacing and the writing was a little bit off for me. Dragons, disappointed. Sour. Okay, that's it. Okay, setup. Overhated. Okay. Um, okay. Okay. Move satisfied, overhyped, underwhelming, anticlimactic. More butt cheeks. Unsatisfied, disappointed. Yeah, a lot of similar thoughts besides I don't know about butt cheeks, but I know what you mean. But let me see how y'all felt about the opening though, this new character and how it's set up the potentiality of a new season in a couple years. Let me see. Waste of time. I concur. Yeah, the last 3 episodes were drawn out better. Be nonstop. We'll see, Michelle. I thought last week was the best episode of the season and possibly the series, but tonight not so much. And see how she was necessary filler. I mean the character is a setup for next season, but the idea was to get Thailand to get the ships to get the pirates on their side for they can take down the blockade. So I get the purpose of it. It was just, as I'll talk about later, how they constructed the episode and when we would cut to them and how it played in a sense of levity kind of interfere with the tone. That was what I had an issue with, but I get the purpose of it, so I wouldn't say it was filler. Just I would personally, I wouldn't say it was filler. um Anticlimactic. Disappointed. Hey, what's going on, Silver? Last week should have been a finale. Kevin, we'll get to that, my friend. We will get to that. But yeah, as we get past this first opening, it kind of, I guess it kind of set the mood for what we were gonna get for the rest of the episode. But there was a glamor of hope. There was a little bit of me that's like, okay, we about to get things going. As we kind of cut from that opening scene, we go here from Eamon, who we know last week was he saw Debo. He saw Debo, which was Rhaenyra and the Dragons last week, and he said, he tucked in his chain and went the other way. He gonna cry in the car. He did cry on his dragon. And we see him here. He's frustrated. He's upset. He's desperate. He's taking his frustration out on this small town, the Sharp Point, which I think is a strategic. This is not just like out of an anger moment. I believe Sharp Point has some type of benefits to Team Black, resources to Team Black. So it is a strategic move of what he did, but it is spawned from anger and pettiness. But he takes him out with Vagar, and this is a Daemon, or I should say an Aemon, that is fueled with just that urge and that yearning to prove himself, to not be embarrassed, to not be fearful, because he is fearful. This is the first time last week and in tonight's episode has shown us this side of him that we really haven't seen. This season in general, just kind of sticking on Damon. I'll kind of weave in and out of thoughts of the episode, thoughts of the season. But someone, looking at Eamon this season, we've seen different shades of him. Right. This could have been a very one note, stereotypical quote unquote villain of the show. He's proven that he's a formidable opponent for Team Black, but he's also vulnerable. We've seen him being vulnerable with the lady at the Barthel, and we saw him being kind of vengeful towards his brother, taking him out on the dragon, and just different shades and different layers to him. And I like that. I don't like Team Green, but I like that as far as a character and a progression and kind of layers and complexity and depth to the character. So it is something that I enjoyed. And we'll talk about Eamon a little bit later. But like I said, his whole path this season has been one that has shown a young man trying to find his way, trying to prove himself. And what that led to was many different things that transpired in this particular episode, in a sense, but also more importantly in this season. So I will say, as far as this through line of this episode, Eamon was someone that was on the thumbs up for me. He was someone that offered me something that was at least intriguing. Unfortunately, that can't be said for a lot of other characters in tonight's finale. But let me know how y'all felt about what he got going on this episode and how you felt about his sense of desperation and acting out and snapping and being rash and kind of making decisions that may not benefit them moving forward. But speaking of benefit and setting things forward, this is someone that's been planting and scheming and plotting this entire series and especially in this season. And that's Laris. He puts the seed, he plants the seed into the king's head, Aegon's head, and says that your brother's upset. He's desperate. He's lashing out, and if he comes across you, it's just a matter of a decision of killing his brother and finishing him off this time. So Larys tells the king, listen, yeah, I know you got your pride. You don't want to walk away from the situation. You don't want to be a coward, but you want to live to fight another day. So he suggested they go off to Estos, I believe is what he suggested, as the king was not a fan of that. He called the people there lovers of goats, which we opened. That's where they were at the beginning of this episode. So he suggests to him that if we can figure it out once this passes, my lord, my king, then we can step in and you can be the king of peace. You can be the king of rebuild, and talking all that stuff in his ear. And he's working it, man. He's working it. I mean, this entire season from Larys has been someone that's tried to get into the ear of the king early in the season. That didn't work. He also tried to get into Aemon's ear. That didn't work. But he's relentless. He doesn't give up. And now him and the king, as we'll talk about later, have this bond, have this understanding, the bondmanship of being crippled and being undermined and underappreciated. They have a connection that seems to be a relationship that's going to flourish in season 3. Now, I do want to pose this question without spoilers, to my book readers. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in this point of the story, is this right or wrong? Aegon, I was under the impression that he was going to be a vegetable for the foreseeable future of this show. And what I mean by that was he wasn't going to be able to walk, talk, comprehend, scheme, make any plans. Like, I thought he was going to be just kind of, TBD for the foreseeable future. I'm sure he was going to come around eventually, like maybe towards the back half of how the show's going to wrap up. But again, book readers, is this expediting the process, expediting the story of how Aegon's able to proceed and move and maneuver with Larys? Is this something that's what's happening in the books, or is, like I said, is the show kind of taking creative liberties to put him in this position where he's able to make moves at this point in the story? Let me know if I'm right, if I'm wrong, if this is a new grounds, new territory, or if this is following the books. Not that it matters, because I haven't read the books, but I'm just curious from that perspective of the book readers if he is as capable as he is in the show at this point in the story from the book's perspective. Very curious about that. But moving on to finding something else to kind of discover, uncover, discuss about the finale. There throughout that, and again, I'm going to find the good and the bad and cut it in between. But the Rhaena stuff in this episode, I told y'all last week how I would have jumped out of this house if she would have got her dragon this episode. That didn't happen, but obviously they set it up, and we'll talk about that last scene with her. But this is an issue I have with this episode. Not this particular scene, but again, just how this episode was structured. I'm someone that looks at, when I look at movies and shows, where are scenes placed? How are they paced? And how do they fit into the overall narrative of what's trying to be told in a particular episode? This is an example to me of just bad placement, because when we were intercut with Rhaena throughout this episode, it kind of felt extremely random to what was going on from the previous scene and the scene that precedes that. It just felt off. As is, and I'm going to tie this into going back to Thailand when he's, fighting in the mud. It's just like there's moments and placements of scene that just didn't make the episode flow well. It felt like it was abrupt. Things will cut in, and it was just like, here's a setup for next season. Here's a teaser. Here's a little insight of what's to come. But it didn't pay off in this episode. You got to remember, not just from a finale perspective, but from an individual episode perspective, your main priority isn't to set things up for another episode or another season. It's to give you an overarching a theme, a thematic through line of that particular single story you're trying to tell. And this episode was far from that. This was a quintessential setup episode through and through. Um, to be fair, there are things that is paid off. We'll talk about Damon. That's a bright spot of this episode. We finally get a resolution with him, but everything else in this episode just felt like unresolved storylines, setup storylines, and just made it feel incomplete. Is my other word to bring up earlier about words to bring up about this finale. So again, love Bela and Reina, but it just felt weird whenever we would check in with her. And then you're in the episode, you don't give her the dragon, you just have her looking at the dragon. Anyway, as I digress, well, let's go to the prince here, who was very salty in tonight's episode, as many brought up in the watch party, and that's Jace. I'm gonna be honest. Ulf was pissing me off in tonight's episode, man. I don't blame Jace how he was acting in this episode, because Ulf was coming at him backwards. I know he when we first met him, he's the storyteller, talking about who his family is, boasting and bragging. He's braggadocious. That's part of his character. But it's like, I need some shift in the character to kind of read the room and kind of read the situation. You're now a dragon rider. You're now in the presence of royalty. You're now in the presence of the queen and the prince. There has to be some level of, like, I don't know, growth and maturity. I don't know. I feel like a lot of the off stuff just felt kind of forced to me in tonight's episode, that he's just like, ungrateful and just like he is who he is type of situation. And it didn't really flow well to me. And again, I don't blame how Jace was reacting to him, as far as like, dude, do you know who you talking to? Like, there's a level of respect and there's a time and a place, and he just didn't bring that. But I do appreciate Hugh, you know, trying to give him a little advice to level up. But yeah, I didn't really care for um Ulf in this episode, and I wish he wasn't presented as a goof as he normally is, as we've seen him in the show thus far. Um, we have Rhaenyra and Corlys talking about, this is the time to strike and it's now, and we got to make the move. But also, I don't want to neglect or go over the fact that he's a character, again, going back and forth about episode, but the season. Corlys to me felt like a character that was kind of in the middle, meaning that he didn't really have like a drastic change, but he also didn't have like, they didn't, digress the character. He was just I don't want to say flatline, but he was just kind of even kill for me in this season. And when we didn't really see him mourning the death of his wife. And again, this is why I bring up the scene. The ship is no longer called the Sea Smoke. But I'm sorry, the Sea Snake, but he's now calling it the Queen that never was, obviously in appreciation of his fallen wife. I respect that. I love that. Rest in peace to the Queen that never was. I get that. But I needed something more from Corlys in this finale and in this season as a whole. Because like I said, it was just very, very even keeled. Like I said, we saw one scene of him on the throne when his wife died, him holding the pendant of maybe being the hand of Rhaenyra. We saw, a couple of conversations. And we'll talk about the conversation with Alan later, but I never felt that, like, that Corlys scene, like, that's the moment that he was pissed of losing his wife, and he got these two bastard kids, and he's lost, he's confused, he doesn't know where to go. It's just like we never got that scene with him, and it felt like, I don't know, was it a scheduling issue, underwriting the character? But we never got that moment from him. And this even goes back to season 1 when he was, on the bed for half of the season. I hope Corlys has a lot more to do in season 3. I hope the conversation between him and his sons are still explored and still examined. And we'll talk about the conversation with Alan, obviously, a little bit later. But Corlys, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of that character. I like the actor a lot. But I felt like the season just didn't know what to necessarily do with him. He was very, I don't want to say reactionary because he didn't react, but he was just very tamed to me in this season. Like I said, very much like season 1. But obviously he wasn't in the bed this season. He was very much, around and present, but just didn't seem like they know what they want to do with him. I don't know if it's that's me. Do you guys feel the same about Corliss? But again, I do love that he did name his remove that kind of, I won't say egotistical side of it, but remove the pride of having the ship named after him and rename it after something with a greater purpose and having a new leaf to be changed, looking at things differently from a different perspective. I get all that, but I just wish the season would have built on him having those moments, to have a little bit more oomph in those moments. But let me know how you guys felt about Corliss in this season, but also in this finale. Let me see what you guys are talking about in the comments. I'll tell you what, Vic, he may be a badass in the books, but I ain't seen that man do anything in the show. Like nothing badass about him in this show. Respectable, you know, decent individual human being, but hasn't done anything from a badass perspective. But like I said, I like the actor. I like his scenes, but nothing too too crazy for me. Let's see. I'm scrolling up to the comment section. Yes, the flow was. Yeah, you guys agree with me? Yeah, it was just a weird flow of this episode. The placement of scenes felt weird. How the scenes would go from one scene to the next didn't flow well. It was just a really oddly put together episode. And again, I'm gonna find the good. You know, we talked about some of the good. But I'm gonna keep it honest with you. I'm gonna talk about some of the bad, or at least in my eyes, the bad of this episode. And the pacing is one, and positioning of scenes is another, and just feeling incomplete is a general feeling I have. But going back to the good, I will say, and I've been on the train of appreciating what the scenes were leading up to. Obviously, the journey wasn't the best for some, but the destination is where you ultimately want to go. I'm talking about Damon, and he was a shining star, shining light of this episode for me. One of the shining lights, one of the very few, but we have Renera sent um a message to Damon to keep an eye on him, but also see what he's doing with Harrenhal and the army. And then we see the gentleman's there, and he's telling Damon, "Look, man, the queen sent me here. I served the king Viserys well, and the king before him, and I obviously, serve Rhaenyra. But the people need a king, and they will follow you, Damon." Um, and honestly, if this was the Damon of episode one, if this was the Damon of season one, he would have been like, you know what, my man, you 100% right. Let's get this going. But again, I'm very aware of how the scenes played, and they were maybe distracting and a little underwhelming, and didn't have much of a guiding star to where it was going. This is a new leaf. This is a new Damon who has seen the likes of an Oscar, who has seen the likes of his mom in the bed sheets, who have seen the likes of his fallen wife, and and a younger version of Rhaenyra, and his brother, obviously Viserys. He's a new man, and we'll talk about something else that he saw in this episode that will forever change him, and did change him for what I hope to be the better, a greater purpose for Damon. So, I'm gonna say it now, and I'll say it later when we talk to him. He was one of the best parts of tonight's episode, because it was at least a through line that was not only felt complete in a story that felt like it had a payoff that was earned. I think even on the journey might not work for y'all. But anyway, speaking of journeys and going back to another kind of a bright star of this episode, and just the kind of dynamic of an episode, we have this scene again. Aemon, desperate, upset, frustrated, looking for some sense of power and some sense of order in his wicked mind. He goes, this is a Hail Mary of a call, man. He's upset. He goes into his sister corridors where his mom is there, and says, "Listen, do y'all want to live? Do y'all want to live? If so, we got dragons, we got riders. Sister, I need you to get on your dragon and to fight with me before we can live and save our legacy and our family." And Helena's like, Me? You want me to go to battle? I've never ridden a dragon in my life. And it just and number one, a couple things in this scene. Obviously, we talked about the aiming of it all. He's desperate. He's literally calling for untrained warriors to get on dragons that have no sense of war and combat. So that's one. Number two, Helena. I love that she said, I no. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is a flat no for me, dog. But number three is Alicent. This is the first time I can think of, and correct me if I'm wrong, of her being a mother and putting her kids in order. And not necessarily Helena, but she defended her daughter. She's been doing that a lot this season. She messed up in episode one with getting her, sleeping with Kristen, and we obviously know what happened to her son. But also at the when they were going through the streets with the kid's body, and how she was protecting her daughter then, and how she was protecting her daughter in the streets. She's finally coming into motherhood. It took so much to get there, but she's finally doing that. But the thing that stood out to me was she looked Aemon in the one eye, in the eye, and told him, "No, you have lost it." Like I really appreciate that from Alice. And again, I'm a team Black representative, but I can appreciate, again, characters having growth and maturity, and not being the same old from the first episode to the eighth episode. So I like that Allison, with her reborn bath of last week's episode, and her kind of coming out a new woman and a changed leaf, turning over a new leaf. And we'll talk about another thing she tried to do later in this episode, a little too late, but I like it. I see, the seeds were planted. This is a much different Allison from episode one to what we saw in this episode. So something that stood out to me, and I appreciate her, because listen, out of all the characters, and again, I don't like Team Green, but there is, I feel terribly bad for Helena, because she just feels like she's just caught in this difficult position. But speaking of difficult positions, I was so happy for the last, I don't know, 3 episodes that we didn't get a single scene with Kristen Cole. And I think the reason I didn't necessarily like tonight's episode is because he made his return. Ladies and gentlemen, he's the reason why this episode was off. Because he was in it. No, I'm being jokey, but I'm being serious at the same time. I'm not a fan of Kristen Cole. But listen, this scene to me is another scene that kind of felt a little out of place, didn't really serve much of a purpose. We have Allison's brother, Gawain, talking to Kristen Cole. Kristen Cole has the handkerchief, the favor from Alicent. And obviously the brother's able to put 2 and 2 together. He calls him out. "You've been sleeping with my sister." And I'm trying to remember the last time we saw Kristen Cole. I'm just trying to think of, like, last time we saw a character to where he's at now. I don't know if that translates from when we see him from last to now. Am I wrong in saying that? Like, I don't feel like this is a pretty, I don't want to say huge step or a huge jump or a leap that comes out of nowhere, but it kind of does, because from last time I remember him, he was like, he told Allison when he left, like, we made our bed and we got to sleep in it. Thousands of people going to die based on the decisions we made. And he was kind of in that mindset. Now, obviously, he's kind of he says in this scene, when you're fighting on land, what does it mean when the dragons are dancing? Like, we're small, minuscule, pointless beings when dragons are involved. So obviously, he's kind of seen that up close. But I don't know. A little bit goes into it that I don't really care for the character. Nothing against the actor. I think the show's done a good job of not making you like the character, but at the same time, it's just like whenever you check in on him, there's nothing there. I think of a Jamie Lannister from the Game of Thrones run. And first few seasons, you're supposed to hate the character. He threw Bronn out of the window. He's sleeping with his sister. He's a dishonest, the Kingslayer, all this stuff. but there was still a level of intrigue about the character. I don't know what's intriguing about Cole at this point in the show. I really don't. Like in this scene, he's talking about, maybe we should die. He's reflecting on life. Again, I understand he just saw dragons and saw his king die and a brother almost killed it. I get all that. That can change you, but I'm just like, I don't know how the show wants us to feel about him. Like, am I supposed to care that he's wanting to die at this point? That they're trying to build a redemption arc? I don't see it. I don't feel it. I don't care for it. And even putting my disdain from him aside, I'm just literally talking about from a writing perspective. I don't think the writing has been well written enough for us to have those moments of like gray area for Kristen Cole. It's pretty like we don't like him, and there's nothing to like about him. It's a tough spot to put a character in. To me, I think it's a tough hole to get that character out of. I don't know if the show's gonna have the time and the bandwidth to do so. He's done so many despicable things at this point that there's no redeeming factors about the character. To me, that's just me. And again, I jokingly, Crispy Cole, we joke and all that, but in seriousness, the character ain't shit. Honestly, he's just there at this point for me. But I tell you what, man, shout out to Voices, who's always coming through these last 8 weeks, dropping some great nuggets, some great insights, some great conversational pieces. And no comment, unless there's a comment later on, but it's showing no comment on my end. Just showing some love to the channel with the $50 super chat. Appreciate you, Voice. Like I said, you're always be in the comments with all these reviews and live streams, and I always love seeing your name pop up. And you've obviously been on other shows and comments, and I always love interacting with you. So that's super love right there. I appreciate you, man. I don't know, was it Kristen Cole? Should we talk about him more? Does that bring out the no, I'm joking, but I appreciate the super chat and the love there. So I appreciate you. But yeah, man, like I said, let me know in the comments, man, how, again, I know we all joke about how we hate the character, but in all seriousness, what does this show do with the character? Again, I haven't read the books. I don't know if there is a redemption arc, if there is a scene that's going to make us look at him differently. I don't know if there is something to do at this point with the character besides joining Team Black or killing Eamon. But yeah, let me know how y'all guys feel about Sir Kristen Cole, and did you have any sense of like, I don't know, man, he's a new guy. I don't know. I didn't really care for it at all. What'd you say, Voice? Thanks, Ellie. You're the best. I appreciate your movie and TV reviews. Well, thank you so much. Thank you. I really do. That means a lot to me. Not only just super chat, but just the appreciation of taking in the content and the reviews. That means the world. That's why I do it. It's to have fun and to interact with you all. So to show that love in a monetary way means a lot, but just showing the love of being here goes even further. So I appreciate you. So yeah, let's see what else have we got. Kristen Cole, New Leaf, who cares? Ready to die, go ahead and just die. I talked about it earlier. I mean, there's no really need to rehash it, but like I said earlier, the scene where we see Tylen, battling in the mud and gain her respect and all that. We already kind of went over that, like I said earlier, and I'll say it again. I didn't really care for it. I didn't really care for those moments because it was like, from a tonal perspective, scenes were played as like almost comedy. And there's not a lot of comedy in this world of Game of Thrones. So whenever it is placed into the show, and there's been comedy in the show before, but it's a thin line. It's a very thin line to play in this show. But I didn't really care for it. And again, I talk about placement and purpose. I love these two characters, but this is a scene where I'm like, Bela and Jace are talking about obviously his disdain for the important, or not the importance, but the special uniqueness of being a dragon rider and the high bloods and riding dragons and all that stuff. And she's like, listen, man, that none of that matters when you're at war. And I get all that, but this didn't really move the needle for me. You know, if I'm being honest, again, I like these two actors. I like where they're going. I think they've been very strong, and it's nothing against the acting in the scene. It's just again the placement of the scene. Like at this point, again, this was another setup scene. It's showing their relationship, their kind of side conversations. Whenever he's been down and out, she's been there to lift him up. I wish it was kind of more even playing field, even though we know she has her head on her shoulder. She's got a good path to walk on. There's not enough guidance that probably got Jace can give her, but I hope that there's more to come with these two, and it's not just again just her giving him advice, but there's more to come. But we'll see. As we're going through the scenes again, Ulf is being a clown at the dinner table, and the queen has to kind of put him in his place and be like, yeah, you need to change up. You're in a different environment, it's a different situation. Do better. One of the maesters come in and tell Rhaenyra there's a message from Harrenhal, and she learns about the treachery, which sends her on a path to Harrenhal, which we'll talk about later. But again, as I'm just going through this episode, I'm just like, I said it to the watch party. At this point in the episode, we're like 40 minutes into the episode, right? And I'm like, and I've said it before, I don't need a bunch of action dragon fights, even though this is House of the Dragon. I don't need a bunch of that stuff. But it's just like there was nothing going on that's integral to a finale. Again, no stakes, no backstabbing, no deaths. And again, I don't need a bunch of action, but it's just like something has to give. Like give me something. You're setting things up, but I want it now. I don't want to see you wrapping the presents. I want you to open them, But speaking of presents, we have the presents. See what I did there? And that's not a good scene. Let me find a better picture here. I don't even know what that's a shot of. Let me find a better, clear shot. This was a very interesting moment. Let me rewind here. There we go. A little bit clear. We have Alice on the bed, the edge of the bed of Damon, and she's like, you know what? The audience has noticed a change in you, and I've also noticed a change in you. When you first came in, you were a closed fist, but now you're open and receptive to change, and maybe you're prepared to see what's to come. I am very interested to read the live chat, but also the comments of this scene, because I think this is a pretty big scene. Book readers, let me know if this happened in the book. Regardless of happening in the show. And that is Damon touches I don't want to say the tree of life, but I'm sure, I can't think of the name of the tree, but we've seen it in the Game of Thrones. It has a significance to the, Bronn and the three-eyed raven and all that stuff. It can see the past, the present, and obviously the future. And Damon, again, we go back to these last 6 or 7 episodes. He's been in Harrenhal. He's been very reluctant to facing his demons, facing his past, his mistakes, things that he's done that he wish he can change. And it's all led to Alice saying that he's ready. As he's walking up to the tree, he touches the tree. I'm not sure what every single frame meant. Like there was a shot of a guy with a birthmark. I don't know if that's the character we're gonna meet, because there's things that we see in the future, but I don't know who the character is with the birthmark. I couldn't even theorize of who. I would assume that has something to do with the foreseeable war. I don't know if it's I don't know who that character was with the birthmark. Let me know in the comments. But we're at the tree. We see the three-eyed raven. We see the blood coming from the tree, and he's seeing the future. He's going through things, and winter is coming. This is what puts Damon on a new path, because this to me was almost like one of those things where, we all have our lives, we all have our ups and downs in life, but we sometimes have that moment in life where we hit that switch where it's like, oh, there's a much greater purpose, there's much bigger things, there's more things at play than just my singular story. And Damon sees that. He sees that winter is coming. He sees the story that Viserys was told, and that is a story of fire and ice. And he sees the White Walkers. Now, not to be a nitpicker, but I don't know who this particular White Walker is. I hope they're not saying this is the Night King, because that is obviously a much different character design. Um, Obviously, we've seen the generals of the Night King and of the White Walkers, and they all had different looks and styles to them. But I don't know who that guy is. This is some other character that I don't know if we've ever come across. I hope it's not one of those lazy things where it's like, no, that's the Night King, but there's like a different, like, how when comic books, when one writer hands off a story to another one and like, oh, this is my interpretation of this particular character. It's a different altered look to him. I hope that's not the Night King, because it ain't the Night King we saw in Game of Thrones. But anyway, I don't want to, hang too much on spoiled milk, but I didn't like the design. Anyway, he sees that winter is coming, very big things to come, but more importantly, this made my heart smile. We got my queen, Rhaenyra, but the other queen is, Khaleesi, Danny. We get to see Danny, man. He gets to see that his bloodline does, regardless of what side wins, team black, team green, their bloodline is still alive in the future, and they have dragons. So he sees that. He doesn't know who wins, who loses, but at least he knows that there is a Targaryen that makes it into the future, and they do have dragons. But what it takes to get there, he doesn't fully see the full picture. But again, he does see who's on the throne, and as Rhaenyra, he does see that she is there now. Again, I haven't read the books, and please don't spoil it. I don't know who ends up on the throne, but if this is the future that he sees, and that's Rhaenyra on the throne, that makes me happy. That makes me happy. So, is it altered? Can it be switched? Can you change the past? A lot of shows and things that touch on time travel and future, going into the future. Obviously, you can change things, but we'll see. But in the midst of all these visions that he's seeing, he hears a voice, and that is, my goodness, man. I don't know what the levels of her powers are, but if she's able to interpret and to get into someone else's hallucinations and dreams, Helena is very powerful. Very powerful. She's able to go in a dream and tells him, basically, again, you're just part of the story. You are just part of the story. This isn't your story. You're just part of it. And again, I think all these visions really spoke to the new side of Damon. These last 8 weeks, everything that he's been going through, these visions has all led him to this. And I also I didn't pull up a screenshot, but there was a screen grab or a moment where he is walking in blood and there's a war and he falls in the water. And I am to interpret that as Damon ain't gonna make it. I'm again not having read the books, but I'm pretty confident that we're gonna lose a lot of characters as we go on and on and on and on. But he sees his death, which again, I don't know if it's falling in the water, if he's shot by arrow, if he's burnt by a dragon, but he sees his death. And when you see your death, like I said, no matter how arrogant or powerful you think you are, but that changes a person. And like I said, this is just the path that he's on now. That it ain't about me; it's about the greater story, and that's getting Rhaenyra on that throne. So it's very interesting. I'm very. I haven't, again, I watched the show with you all live. I haven't been online to see the reaction to these moments. I feel like it's going to be a lot of negative, and I think some of it's warranted. But I am very curious on how people feel about this scene, because again, we leaned a lot into the supernatural in this season, and Damon seeing the future and changing. I know a lot of people leading into season 1 and the hype leading, because again, I haven't read the books. Everyone was talking about Damon. Damon is that dude, he's just such a wild card. And a lot of that has been seen in season 1, but now season 2, are we going to see him in season 3? Like, he's just completely changed. There's no pushback. There's no rebellious nature to him. He's just a new changed man at this point. that's gonna be interesting to see this new side of Damon. But let me know how y'all felt about the vision and everything that we got with Damon and that scene and what does it all mean? Does Rhaenyra get on the, no spoilers for my book readers, but does Rhaenyra end up on the throne? Does he die sooner rather than later, Damon? Let me know in the comments. But going from one vision to the next, and that powerful being, and that's Helena, as her brother comes up to her and says, listen, we're of the same blood, and I want the best for us and our family and protect our family. I need you to get on the dragon. I know you've never ridden a dragon, but I just need you on there to at least have a chance against Team Black and Rhaenyra and her dragons. But she says no. She says no, and she, more importantly, this is huge, man. Because again, there's a it's, I don't say it's on the nose, but it's pretty apparent that Damon and Aemon are similar, individuals. But one is obviously at a point now where they're seeing the right path and seeing that there's a greater purpose. But this is a young man's game. Aemon is not at the point where he realizes that there's bigger things at play. And when you have someone of your blood look you in your one eye and tell you, listen, man, you're going to die. Aegon is going to end up on a throne again, a wooden throne, and you're going to die. And he says, I can have you. Well, first off, before that, she says, I know what you did, which is you burned your brother and tried to kill him. That's treason. What do you come up with that? No, I saw it. So shut up. I got two eyes. You got one. And then, she tells him you're going to die and there's no one. He says, I can have you killed for that. Well, you can have me killed, but that ain't going to change the future. I love it, Helena. I love it, man. And again, this is another character that just sees the power that they had a grip on, is slightly losing that grip. And I'm not sure that's a good thing for us, Team Black, because this character has shown that he is, when he gets upset, there are lives that tend to get taken. So him being told he's going to die, he has no big importance to the future. Well, he's like, F it. I'm going to go out with a blaze of glory then. So we'll see, man. We'll see what season 3 Aemon looks like after being told all this throughout the episode. So as we kind of wrap up the final kind of back half of the episode, after getting the message about potential treachery going on, Rhaenyra goes to Harrenhal. She sees all the army and everything that Daemon has done and then gathered. And she's suspicious, I will say an episode that didn't really have many stakes. This was the only scene that had a sense of tension to me because I didn't know, he saw the vision, but that doesn't mean he was going to be a changed man at that point, right? But as the scene kind of plays out, all the people behind Damon, he says, these guys are loyal to me. They will, raise the banner for me in my name. And, a little smuck look on his face here. And I can only imagine, again, you got to remember, last time Rhaenyra was with him, it was a little bit of a physical altercation, and he just left and walked out. She doesn't know who he is at this point, right? So she looks at him and says, well, who do you all serve, me or him? He walks up to his, wife and speaking Valerian and tells her this is a bigger war at play. Winter is coming, right? And he looks at his queen, and last 7 weeks has led to this. And that's him on one knee, claiming you are my queen and you lead. A good moment. Finally, like I said, it took 7 weeks and I wasn't complaining about it, but I know a lot of you all weren't the biggest fans of how his little side quest of redemption of a sense or newfound glory was handled, but it has all led to this moment, which is him bending the knee to his rightful queen. So like I said, not too long ago, badass, rebellious, relentless, wild card ways of him. Is it no longer that? Is this a new Daemon? It's going to be noble, respectful, honest, not killing kids and having people's heads chopped off. Is that fun for season 3? We'll see. We'll see how they handle them moving forward. But I just hope that there's still some complexity to the kid. Not necessarily like, we see it next season. He's like, no, I want to be the king now. No, I hope they don't go that drastic, but I still hope that there's moments of like when you know that you're gonna die, when you know that there's a war coming that's bigger than the war that you're fighting now. Like, what does that do to a person? So I'm just interested to see what a Damon season 3 looks like. Is Alice, do we have any more of her character? Does she move on? Like, he's had this newfound glory, this newfound purpose. Does Alice come along? I'm very, very curious. Yes, I see the comments here about Alfred. When he announced that he was going to bend the knee, he was like, "Let me get the hell out of here before I get my head chopped off for the treachery." So interesting, but yeah, man, I'm really curious to see what a new Damon looks like in season 3. And I gotta admit, man, I think one of the it's like, at what cost, right? I really like the dynamic between the energy, the chemistry between Damon and Rhaenyra and Matt, Matt and Emma, and I feel like that was sorely missed in this season, and it shows in this scene. Like, I love the dynamic between the two, and like I said, what was the cost? And it was, the cost was having them split up for all this season. So, I'm excited to get more of them next season. I hope they're not split up for all the season. Same with Otto. He was absent for most of the season. So I like to see. I like to see. It took forever, but we got here. He got there, I should say. Yes, he has the war cry that we're gonna fight and get things going, man. And as we, as one sword is lifted up and there's a respect and an honor, we follow that up with something less of honor. And listen, I told you we was gonna find the good. This is another good scene. One good scene followed up by another good scene. Well, actually, this is sequences of scenes, right? We get the Vision, we get Helena and Aemon, we get Damon and Rhaenyra, and we get Corlys and Alan. And I gotta respect this scene, man, because I was waiting for this. Alan finally speaks up, man, because Corlys, again, I told you earlier, I like the character, but he's handled the bastard situation pretty poorly. He tells Alan, I'm trying to help you, man. Just listen to what I'm trying. Just get out of here. You don't want to go to fight for war. And he's like, listen, Dad, I am my own man, and now you care. You now trying to give me advice. Listen, bro. When I was a kid, me and my brother used to have to struggle for food. We saw our sister die. We would living in the slums. We grew up fatherless. I love this scene because on a personal note, I kind of love it because I grew up without a dad, and I never had that. I had like little interactions when I was growing up as a teen, but he was never really there. But I never had that moment to tell him how I felt about him. And honestly, I don't care about him at all. But that's another story for another day. But I appreciate that because he does have that moment to tell his dad, like, you ain't shit, Dad. You really ain't, man. And I love that moment for Alan. I really do. And again, I hope season 3 explores that more. Between the brothers, Alan and Adam and Corlys, I hope there's a lot more to be explored there. But I do appreciate that from Alan because he's been very much quiet and silent and just yes, sir, and doing the thing that will make his dad happy in his eyes. But he finally tells his dad about himself, and Corlys needed to hear that. He needed to hear that. This is a scene that I think this episode needed. I think we needed more of these scenes because it is payoff, right? We've seen a character all season in Alan being fearful, being kind of I don't know, fearful, but just kind of like, I don't want to step on my dad's shoes. I don't want to open up those can of worms. But sometimes you got to face it on, right on, straight on. So I love that for Alan, and I'm really, really, like I said, excited to see what comes of this relationship moving forward. And does that mean Corlys, claims his kids? And if not, I hope that we still get more of the brothers, one the dragon rider and then others, on his own path. So I like it. I love it. Let me know how y'all felt about it in the comments. But before moving on, let me see what you guys are talking about. Let me catch up to the comment section here. Yeah, he's a deadbeat. He is. Yeah, it needed to happen for sure. I agree. I agree. Make something for me to feel for Alan. I didn't care about the scene. I respect that. Like I said earlier, I much earlier in the breakdown, I said I did wish that there was more scenes with Corliss because he was very just kind of like in the middle. Like we never saw him lean one way or the other. So I get that. I hate that the way the world was written in stone is this world. It's like everyone is a toy and no free will. This thing about seeing the future, right, Skylar? As you know, you're a writer yourself. It's hard to kind of, and that's what I'm saying when we look at Damon next season. Like, how does that change a person? Like, is there any more pushback? Is there any more juice in that character to kind of play in the gray area, or is he now on a straight and narrow path when he knows what's going to happen? And all these characters, like you just mentioned, he doesn't know how he's going to die. He doesn't know where the White Walkers come from. He doesn't know where Danny comes from. But he sees it. So, but yeah, it does kind of put a, and that's honestly, Skylar, if we're talking about just on a larger scale, why this show is slightly different to Game of Thrones. There's an ending to House of the Dragon. There's an ending to the Fire and Ice story. There's obviously George R.R. Martin hasn't written the ending to Game of Thrones, and we obviously know how that went with the show. So it's almost like there is a definitiveness to this show because there is a final book to this. So yeah, it's an interesting position to be put in. And again, not having read the books, but just reading the comments, again, the vibe and kind of knowing some things that happen, how the show is kind of, went on a different path. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of that. But I understand where you're coming from in regards to whenever characters kind of foresee the future, how that sets things in place where it's just like they know the future. So how much of a surprise is certain elements. But I tell you what was a surprise for me as we wrap up the episode. And I gotta admit, man, I'm always a person that can always, even with the kind of the shortcomings of this episode, the misplacements of scenes, the pacing being off, some scenes kind of feeling pointless, if I'm being honest. I don't want to say this was a pointless scene, but I felt like it's a little, again, misplaced. And I could be misspoken here, but I believe that Allison and Rhaenyra never had any of these conversations in the book. The first conversation that Rhaenyra went to King's Landing to talk to Allison, and the scene that we see here, I don't think this is brand new territory. Again, book readers, correct me if I am wrong. This is I believe, a show thing of having these conversations. I just felt like Allison was talking in circles. Rhaenyra was talking in circles. She's telling her, I have this newfound appreciation. I made a mistake, yada, yada, yada. It's like, I felt like we kind of got that. Didn't really need that. But anyway, she's showing that to Rhaenyra again. It's a one thing as an audience, as we see, it might feel like it's empty words, but obviously in the show, the perspective, these are words being spoken to the characters for the first time and feelings being displayed. But yeah, this didn't really move the needle for me. This scene, great acting. I'm not going to dismiss that, but it just felt like it was empty for me. As Rhaenyra tells Allison, a son for a son. Basically, I misinterpreted the scene. I kind of thought about it as I was walking my dog later. Like when she's saying that, she said, "You're not." In the watch party, I thought that she was saying, "Kill your son." Which would be a crazy thing for a mother to tell a mother to kill her son. But no, she was saying, a son from son, I'm going to take your son. I'm going to kill Aemon. It is what it is. And you're going to let me do it. And she pretty much proposes this idea. Allison says, my son is going to go to Kristen. They're going to gather up their armies. And while he's gone, you swoop in with your dragons. There will be no need for bloodshed. I will talk to the armies, tell them to put their weapons down. I will, tell Aegon to bend the knee, yada yada yada. And Rhaenyra tells her, "Well, are you going to do it?" And she says, "Yeah." I don't know. Again, I don't blame the acting. I think Emma and Olivia are great performers. You know, we haven't seen that many scenes from them in this entire show as adults for this season, besides the two meetings here. So it is an energy and is a sense of dynamic that is pretty unique when you have these two opposite characters who don't see eye to eye. When they finally come together, there is a synergy and an excitement there. But the way I felt about the first meeting, like, oh my goodness, like Rhaenyra is stepping out of her comfort zone, risking her life to have this conversation, trying to end this war before blood is shed, or even more blood is shed. Now, like, that was an interesting scene. This one didn't work for me. Didn't feel the stakes, didn't feel the purpose, didn't feel the sense of urgency. It just kind of fell flat. Um, Unfortunately. Because I would imagine as the writer of the show, you're like, this is the moment. This is and this is just me. I'm not speaking for obviously you all, but it's just like I can imagine the writers were like, oh my gosh, Allison, Rhaenyra, these two best friends are coming together, and at this point in the show and the story, like this is it. This is what we've been leading up to. But it just kind of fell flat for me. Let me know how y'all felt about it. But as we wrap up this episode, again, she says she's gonna fall through with it, and we get like this, man. Montages are effective when you have a lead up to a montage that makes you get excited, it makes you get, all giddy inside. But this one just kind of felt lame. It just felt like I said, just a wet fart, just like a little teaser trailer for next season. Everyone's getting prepared for war. We got Team Black getting prepared for war. We got the Team Greens getting prepared for war. We got some Starks marching in Winterfell. We have the Lannisters. We have the Blue Queen, which is the dragon that Allison's other son has. We got Otto in a crate. What does that mean? From for the High Towers, from Old Town. We have, obviously Daemon overlooking his fleet of army. We have the two oppositions on the sea with Thailand and the pirates, and Corliss and with their new ship with the Queen that never was. So and then I don't know. I feel so bad for Reyna because like at least put her on a dragon. Can we at least see her tame the dragon? I don't know. It just felt a little like, I don't know. I mean, that dragon, by the way, looks badass. Like, that looks pretty cool design. But, we see her come face to face. And again, that whole lead up was just weird. Whenever we were checking it, she was like running and dirty and it's just like out of breath. It's like this, I don't know. It just wasn't that interesting. We see Alicent overlooking, these are the last shots. I'm sure if I were to go back and watch season 1, these moments might be more impactful because I'm pretty sure that this framing of, we see Alicent looking out in the distance to the foreseeable future. And then, it's kind of a mirror shot of one character is looking out into the distance, and then you follow it up with another character. In this case, it's Rhaenyra, and it's almost like they're looking at each other the way that the shot is framed. And it's the last shot of the season is them just looking out of what's to come, which is a war, bloodshed, moving forward. Yeah, man, it's just a teaser for season 3, which at this point, 2 years maybe that we'll get that, if there's no strikes, if there's no pandemics, I mean, we got an election this year. Who's to say? What the world looks like in 2 years. But neither here nor there. Not to be dark and grim, but at a minimum 2 years for another season. I believe they're gonna do. If you all saw the beginning of the episode, they showed what's to come in 2025. Last of Us season 2, can't wait. A couple other shows like the Welcome to Derry, very excited for that. I'm a big Pennywise, Stephen King fan. And then they showed, I can't remember the name of it. It's like Duncan and something. It's a prequel. It predates this story, which we'll see what comes of that show. But it's a I don't want to say a filler, but it's a show to kind of make up for time. It's like, hey, we'll give you this show. It's kind of like what the boys are doing, right? You get the boys, Gen V, and the boys. So like, we're gonna get a little House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones world story next year, and then hit them up with the season 3 of this show. But overall, I'll speak on the finale, and then I'll touch on the season. But the finale was a letdown. Very disappointing. Last week should have been the finale. Just the way it ended, it was way more exciting than this episode. If you were going to end this season with this episode, you should have had a 9th episode, because you ended things on such an uninspiring way. It's just a setup, right? And you can even have a setup, but if you have things prior to the setup, right? If you would have had, and again, I'm not even speaking to the action of it all. Like, sure, we didn't need dragons fight. I mean, that would have been awesome, but we didn't get that. I don't need a bunch of action. I just need things to have a payoff and feel like there's a complete story being told, and that wasn't the case. Besides Damon, and only character that really had like a complete arc, and again, I'm just speaking to this episode, was Damon. And Rhaenyra, obviously hearing that she has his full support, has an army, and is in a position of power, from episode 1 to season 2, episode 8, she's at a different position. But as the finale goes, it was very underwhelming, very incomplete. As far as the season goes, I won't say a defendant, but I think the season speaks for itself. I think this was a really solid season of television. I thought it kind of started off a little slow, if I'm being honest. Episodes 1 and 2. But once we got into, we pivoted over to things kind of, we were building. We get to episode 4 with Rhaenys and Meleys and the fight. And then we got the ramifications of that. And then we got a fantastic episode 6 or 7. And then we ended things with a disappointing. So I would say, on a level, and by the way, as I'm doing this, put your scores of this episode and just your overall score of this season in the chat and in the comments. But as a season goes, this was inferior to season 1. I think season 1 is far and beyond much better writing, pacing, editing, if I'm being honest, just from a technical standpoint, character development, excitement, and you go back to season 1, they didn't even have much of like action, right? We barely saw any dragons season 1, but it was just like the verbal combat that was just so intriguing. I thought season 1 was just fantastic. Now season 2 was good, it was solid, but it was a setup season. It very much so. Not to jump off to another show, but I felt there's a couple other big shows, season 2, season 3, season 4s, that felt like setup seasons, and this kind of falls in that camp. I think of The Bear season 3, which was fantastic, but there was a lot of setup for the next season. The Boys season 4, some great episodes, but a lot of setup for the next season, the final season. And House of the Dragon, same thing, man. A lot of setup for the next season. Now, I don't know if that speaks to a larger picture of like, this is the part of the story that just requires this type of pacing, this type of storytelling, that this is just kind of a lull in the story to set up for action for season 3, or for next chapter of the book. And it's just kind of circumstances. I don't know if this is kind of a issue from the writer's strike, less episodes. We had 10, now we got 8. even though I know this show wasn't as affected by the strike as other shows were. Like they were shooting during the strike. So, um, but yeah, I would give this episode a 6 out of 10. And my MVP is probably Damon. No, my MVP is Alan. I really love that scene from Alan. I'm gonna give Alan an MVP. And then and on a scale of 1 to 10 for our season, I'll give it a 7.5 out of 10 for a season. So a 6 out of 10 for the finale, a 7.5 out of 10 for the entire season 2 of House of the Dragon season 2. That's my scores, my final thoughts. This is going to be the end of the review portion of tonight's discussion. Like, share, comment your thoughts on the season of the finale and what you hope to see in season 3. And I'll catch you all in the next breakdown. But for my live audience, let's see what you guys are talking about. Jason Bourne. Interesting. Just catching up. Actors are great. No, not like I said earlier. Voice acting has never been an issue with me in the show. But yeah, just more productional stuff, writing, directing, editing was a little bit off. This is random, but the final score of the episode gave me Dune vibes. I got to go back and listen to it. I'm a big score head, so I got to go back to it. Beautiful score last episode as well. Yeah. Like I said, last week was a 10 out of 10, man. Did Allison jump? No, she didn't jump. That would be ridiculous if they did that to her, but no, she didn't jump. Oh, I thought the season was solid. A lot of good character development. I enjoyed it, most of it, but I heard the reason why the season was shorter is because they ran out of money. HBO ran out of money? Crazy. I'm not saying I don't believe you, but that's crazy. Yeah. The scene was too long. Also, the second time one of them stuck out. Another. Yeah, this felt redundant. It felt repetitive, and we didn't get. There was no change. Like it was the same result in the same different location, but the same results. So there was nothing intriguing or different about those meetups for me. I know one of the showrunners didn't come back this season. I definitely see the difference in the writing. Yeah. Miguel Shapotnik, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He was a showrunner of season 1, or co-showrunner, and then obviously Brian Cobell was the main showrunner. So yeah, there was definitely a different writer's room, but it was also a different showrunner this season. And I think it shows because Miguel Shapotnik, I'm pronouncing that right. He's an OG with Game of Thrones. He's directed. He's had his hands in some of the best episodes of Game of Thrones histories, and he directed a lot of great episodes in season 1 of this. And he had no part in season 2 at all. Like he was executive producer, I believe, but he didn't have much of a hand in the writing or directing of this season at all. So, and I think it shows. And again, not down dismissing or looking down upon the writers and the new writers and the new showrunner, but there's a difference. If you all do a rewatch of season 1 and then season 2, you will see the writing on the wall. That there is literally the writing on the wall. You will see the difference of how the show played out. Yeah, I know that's the question, right? I mean, we'll see. I assume we'll learn. Yeah. Weakest finale since Game of Thrones season 8. Ooh. Yeah, you ain't lying. Let's see here. Yeah, that's today. Yeah, Vic. Duncan. I don't know anything about that. Like the story of that. I just know it's a prequel. Kind of a Club and Wolf story, I would assume. a warrior taking his kid. I don't know who's more important. I believe it's a knight and a kid. I don't know why the kid's with the knight, but they're on a journey. We'll see. We'll see. And I don't even think it's based on like a full. I think it's like a short story. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I was disappointed to hear about. There was a show that had like Nomi. What's her name? Nomi Pace. No. That's not Nomi Pace. What's her name from The Ring and Godzilla or Kong? But there was a show that got canceled that they shot a pilot for. I was looking forward to that show. And I think they're doing the Aegon the Conqueror series, which is a show that sounds like sets everything off. Which I would love to see, that the big dragon, like the biggest dragon ever, and obviously his conquest of Westeros. I would love to. I think that's in the makings. I could be wrong, but that's the one I really want to see. Because that just sounds exciting. Naomi Watts show. But yeah. Should have pulled out a quick and dirty 45-minute episode. Consequences, yeah. Set up a bunch of side quests. The bar was set. Oh, I didn't even read that. What was that 2026 thing? I'm sorry. 2026 is when it's supposed to come out, but I heard they're starting filming the show right after Christmas. Yeah. I would imagine around this time in 2 years we'll be back with season 3. Yeah, season 1 was just so damn good. Yeah, I agree. Even though I didn't hate those scenes, but I agree. All right, so we got some scores. All right, let's see. 6 for the episode, 8.5 for the season. Score for this season was a 6. Season 1 was a 10. Yeah, season 1 was like a 9.5 for me. Season was an 8. Finale was a 6. 6 for the finale, 8.5 for the season. 8 for the season, 7.5 for the finale. How many stars is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stars. Okay. A 5 for me for the season or for the episode. We got 6. Alan was MVP for sure. Was there budgetary issues? I feel like HBO told them to cut their budget, so I feel like that's the opposite, right? I would say because we had more dragons this season, more action this season. But to that point, yeah, you get more dragons, you get more action, you get less episodes because of the. Yeah, I guess you guys are right. That kind of adds up with the budgetary. Season 7, episode 6. Gotcha. Let's see what man Skyler. Damn, a 6 for a finale. Yeah, that's where I'm at, bro. Alan, yeah. Finale was a 6. No, I'm gonna give it a watch, Skyler. Give it a watch still. But I mean, it's nothing like normally. I mean, this the tradition of Game of Thrones was the penultimate is always the big one. Then the 10th episode is like the follow up, the ramifications, setting up. It did like the balance of like showing you what happened at the end of the 9th episode, but then setting up the next season. This one was just all set up with nothing to really show for it. But yeah. There was also no featurette in an episode where the showrunner and actors talk about. There was. There was one. I don't know if you missed it, but there was one. There was a little featurette talking at the end, weekest finale. Yeah, that's what someone said earlier. That's what someone else said. But yeah, man, it's like one of those situations where we live in a world now where there's so much content out there, and I don't think Game of Thrones will ever be overlooked. But in a world in which we have so much to look at from a movie perspective, streaming perspective, movies and shows on streaming, when you end a show on kind of a lackluster note and then you got to wait 2 years, I think we're going to see the season premiere of season 3 will probably be, in my humble opinion, we'll replay the tape in 2 years. I think the season 3 premiere will have the lowest premiere number of any season, because I think people will be just like, well, like, oh, I'm excited for it to be back, but it's just like, you know, it is what it is type of thing versus like the excitement, anticipation we all have for season 2. I don't think that same level is going to be there. And, just thinking of 2026 alone from just like a film perspective, that's the year of Batman Part 2, Avengers, a ton of TV shows coming out that year. So it's like, again, Game of Thrones, House of Dragons is on a pedestal of like conversation, but not the best finale. 2-year gap. We'll see about this prequel series. I'm just saying, I don't know how the buzz is going to be in a couple years, but we'll see. Yeah, yeah. January 19th, I want to say, of 2025. So yeah, about 6 months. Yeah, give us 10 for sure to make up, for sure. Oh, did they? I'm not surprised. Again, it's rare for, like, again, not to bring up The Boys again, but The Boys had their highest viewership in their 4th season, even though I think it was their weakest season. But some shows, you know, um, gain new subscribers and viewers. Some shows don't. So yeah, but we'll see what comes of the IP in a couple years. Yeah. I mean, I jumped off that ship after season 1. I wasn't a big Westworld fan. I know it's crazy. Sci-fi is my favorite genre, but I couldn't get into that show. Well produced. Christopher Nolan's brother, Jonathan Nolan, did that show. Great acting. It just didn't hook me. But yeah, man, we got 76 people watching. We're gonna wrap up here in a little bit. If there's any other comments, concerns, thoughts about what's to come for this show, but other shows too, let me know. I'll be on for another 10 minutes. Like, what is the next show? I'm trying to think. Is there anything in August? Well, I told you guys I'm watching The Umbrella Academy. Season 4 is dropping this Thursday. I'm gonna be finishing it up probably tonight, so keep an eye out for that. I got to catch up on Silo. I know season 2 comes back in November. I got to catch up on Arcane. I know that comes back in November. I got to catch up on Squid Games. I know that comes back in December. The Penguin is September. Agatha is in September. Is there? We said Severance already. So I mean, yeah, there's some stuff to look forward to, man. Just thinking, Agatha, Penguin, Arcane, Silo, Dune Prophecy, Squid Games. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to look forward to, y'all. So let me see what you guys, any comments on shows we should be psyched for. Me and you both. I missed that show. Yes. Gotta get the band together, Skylar. See what Johnny talking about, see what Meg talking about, and we'll figure something out for season 2, man. I gotta do my rewatch of that just to get back in the mood. Yeah, Penguin. I'm really psyched for that. I haven't seen an episode. I heard it's great. And I'm a big horror fan, and I haven't seen it. But I think the trailer. I think they said August, right, or September for the From fans out there. Dune, Prophecy, and Penguin. Yeah. Can't wait for both those shows. I'm really stoked for Penguin because I love that world that Matt Reeves created in the first Batman, and I love Colin Farrell on the role. Really excited to get more of the Falcons, and Sophia and all that stuff. I'm really stoked for that. Nice. I never watched that show, but I know it's a big show. A lot of people love is Blind. Arcane. Yep, I got to catch up on that. Umbrella Academy. Yeah, Umbrella Academy. I'm 5 episodes in. No, 4 episodes in, and it's only 6 episodes this season. So I'm under embargo, can't really talk about pros and cons or anything, but um, I'm gonna probably do like some video for the finale and series finale and all that later this week. It's an interesting show. Yeah. Well, we'll see once the show wraps up. Squid Game's coming back. Yeah, part 2 or season 2 is in December, and part 3, season 3 is next year. So yeah, I gotta catch up on the show. But I think that's it. Yeah, we will be eating good. Some more shows and some great movies for the back half of the year. So the show following the Penguin as a no, I think it's him, taking on the power vacuum that was left after the Batman with the um the family being down. So he's gonna try to take on all the corruption and stuff in Gotham. So I don't think he's not necessarily gonna be the good guy, but it's gonna be like watching The Sopranos. Like Tony Soprano wasn't a good guy. But we rooted for him in a way. So yeah. I have. It looks cool, but I'm kind of Terminated out, Skylar. I love the animation style, very anime look to it, but I'm just burnt from so many lackluster Terminator stories. Aisha, you speaking my language. I got the invite for the press screening for next week. It's one of my most anticipated films for the rest of the year, and I'm very excited. I'm a big Fede Alvarez fan. Evil Dead 2013 is my favorite of the franchise. Love what he did with Don't Breathe. I think he's just such a fascinating director that just really catches my attention. So I'm gonna probably start doing my rewatch of that pretty soon, just to get in that mindset of xenomorphs and face huggers and stuff. So I'm very excited for that next week. Yeah, that's the cash cow. That and Stranger Things next year. All right, I think that's it. Oh, I need a good slow burn, depressing about dysfunctional family drama, but it seems like the era of peak prestige TV is. No, I wouldn't say that. Check out Pursue Innocence. Check that out, my friend, if you haven't already. That might fill your cup. November. I don't know the exact date, but I know it's in November. Yeah, Terminator. I love Terminator. The first one, and then the second one of the greatest action movies of all time. But that franchise is boo boo. Yeah, some good comedy would be good. Yeah, I haven't seen a good comedy in a while, Skylar. Like a good comedy TV show. I don't watch. I know Abbott Elementary is really good, but I don't watch ABC shows. What was the last good comedy show I watched? Shrinking. You guys watch Shrinking on Apple TV Plus? That was really good, really funny. Yeah, those kids on Stranger Things. Can't wait for season 5. Sorry, that's gonna be epic. Nah. But anyway, guys, I'm rambling at this point. Before we head out, man, I said up top, I'm gonna say it again for all those that joined me for the last 8 weeks for the watch party. I thank you for everyone joining me for the watch for the after show after the watch party. I thank you. I love interacting with you all on a weekly basis, and I'm gonna miss these, man. Like I said, I don't know what's the next. Maybe the Penguin. We might do it after show for that, because I don't know if it's gonna be. I think it's a Sunday show. It should be at least prime time, but maybe we'll do some after shows for the Penguin or Agatha, and some of those other shows I mentioned. But we'll see. But nonetheless, again, 11B37. You guys are awesome. I appreciate y'all, and keep an eye out for some content this week. A lot of short form content, made some shorts about some stuff that came out from Marvel and some stuff for them, some other stuff you guys will see, and then we'll get back into the movie stuff with Alien Romulus, like I said, Umbrella Academy later this week. And yeah, man, we'll keep it going from there. But from me to you, I appreciate y'all for the support. Voice, if you're still here, thank you, thank you, thank you for the wonderful super chat, my friend. And for every like, share, comment, I appreciate y'all. You guys are awesome. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Peace out.